The views and opinions expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of KTOO Public Media. This program may contain discussions that include terminology or perspectives that reflect different time periods, cultural contexts, or viewpoints that may not align with contemporary standards or expectations.
This place is small, real small. When we landed out here, I couldn't even see the island. I didn't even know where we were landing.
Something I always did, you know. It was just part of our lives, and never really anything else I thought about doing, I guess. I'm away for 4 days, I start to miss it, you know.
A number of the supplies we haul, you can't haul on commercial air carriers. The ammo and other explosive ordnances and various types of chemicals used in support of the various armies.
Water has a way of dominating the lives of those of us who live in Southeast. We complain about it when it falls from the sky for too long, and we work and play on that portion of the water that serves as a liquid highway connecting our communities. Hello and welcome again to Rain Country. I'm Scott Foster, and this week we're going to examine some of the results of living in a waterlocked land. There are about 300 members of the Army National Guard stationed in Southeast and associated with the 4th Battalion. Most communities have members of the Guard, and most communities have armories of one sort or another, although getting between them is sometimes difficult because of the water-caused isolation. Battalion headquarters in Juneau has an aviation group associated with it. The 3 helicopters and the 1 plane serve as aviation support for all of the National Guard units in Southeast.
We haul battalion personnel and supplies to the different locations. A number of the supplies we haul, you can't haul on commercial air carriers. The ammo and other explosive ordnances and various types of chemicals used in support of the various armies. Flammable paints and stuff like that that's difficult to transport on normal air carriers. Basically, we have the aircraft behind me, which is a Canadian-built de Havilland Twin Otter, and the Army calls a UV-18. And we have the UH-1, which is the workhorse aircraft helicopter for the Army, and came into the inventory back in the late 50s and was used very extensively in Vietnam. And all 3 of the birds that we have here are Vietnam vintage aircraft. Plus most of the pilots are Vietnam vintage pilots.
There are only 8 full-time guardsmen at the hangar. Their jobs break down into 4 groups: supply, maintenance, training, and safety. Risk is an inherent part of flying regularly, especially in Southeast, where weather and terrain sometimes team up against aviators. At times like that, the flight crews have to be prepared for the worst.
Everybody go in, anywhere you want. You see the air that forms up around his shoulders there? Okay, put your arm across your chest.
Mr. Gorley, the senior ALSI Tech, Aviation Life Support Equipment, is giving a class on the raft and the flotation suits, survival suits. We have to use those on all our flights over water in Southeast Alaska. So once a year or so, he gives a class to update us on the stuff. Otherwise, we'd never have an opportunity to test the equipment and actually get familiar with it. Without that, you know, our first shot in the water would be in a real-life situation. So it's definitely beneficial.
Besides taking care of the day-to-day operations of the aviation facility, crew members have another important job to do.
Our key responsibility on weekends is to train the part-timers. We have a total of about 15 additional guys as part-timers when we're fully manned. Our job is to train them. The pilots, of course, have to be trained to the same standards that we have, but they have a much shorter period of time to do it in. The normal part-timer has 48 drill days, and which are weekends, and then he has 15 additional days, which are called annual training. And this summer, we're going to Canada for annual training, which is unique. Most of our annual trainings are winter periods, generally up around Fairbanks or out on the western coast. The part-timers represent a cross-section of the labor force in Southeastern. We have a doctor who works over at the hospital. We have one of the guys that works for Alascom and their repeater sites. One of the other guys is a student at the university. One of the guys is a federal employee for the Forest Service down out of Thorn Bay. And one of the guys is in the commercial contracting business here in Juneau.
The Guard's primary responsibility is national defense, but the part-timers, dubbed weekend warriors by their peers, and their full-time counterparts don't have to wait around for a war to put their skills to good use.
The governor has an authority to activate the National Guard members to support in disasters that may occur at the different locations. We were mobilized a year ago for the damage done to Teneke in the Thanksgiving Day storms. There's other kinds of mobilization that occur for civic activities. We provide some type of support, like for the 4th of July and Veterans Day and Memorial Day activities, too.
The Guard helps out on other kinds of civic projects, too, like the rebuilding of this tramway that hunters and recreationists use to portage skiffs, canoes, and kayaks from Oliver's Inlet to Seymour Canal on Admiralty Island. Because of Alaska's proximity to Russia, the Alaska National Guard has recently been among the first Army units to receive the newest and best helicopters the Army has to offer. It won't be long before the Juneau flight crew will be flying the new machines if budget allocations go as expected.
The state has just acquired the first 4 of a series of the newest Army helicopters called the Blackhawks, which are UH-60, and they're supposed to be the state-of-the-art for helicopter support to the troops in the Army. The aircraft is a tremendous increase in size and payload. Hopefully, we should see 2 of them, if we're lucky, here in the next 2 or 3 years. They're about $7 million a copy.
Acquisition of the new aircraft is going to create a need for more space, so plans are underway which will take the Guardsmen out of the unheated hangar they now share with someone else.
The hangar facility here is on a lease from one of the local air taxi operators here, and there is money being set aside in the budgets for a new hangar facility, which will be located on the other side of the Crash Fire Rescue Center. And it'll be a building similar in size to this, but of course it'll be modern, it'll be heated, which this building is not. It'll have the workshop so that we can have an opportunity to maintain our equipment to the standards that we attempt to, but due to the cold storage facility we now have, it's very difficult to do.
This tug is the Alaska Mariner. It's more than 100 feet long and cruises at about 10 knots. The barge is twice that length, being pulled behind. This tug and barge operation are crucial to Southeast Alaska, bringing supplies from the U.S. and organized in Seattle, and then swinging on a 9 or 10-day trip throughout Southeast all the way up to Haines and then back to Seattle, bringing the supplies and the equipment that all of us in Southeast need to stay alive.
It scares you to death sometimes. You get out there in a situation where the wind comes up and you're barely holding your own or making headway, and you just hoping everything holds together, that you don't have a engine failure or a tow line failure, and that you can get across there. And it's just one of the bad features that makes you gray before your time, I guess. That there's time to time you just downright get scary for you, you know. Nobody can afford a loss, and you get something like that on your record, you might as well find another job.
Bob Shrewsbury doesn't want any other job. Working on tugs and barges is what he's done his whole life. Western Towboats, a family-owned business based in Seattle, was started by Bob Shrewsbury's father after World War II. They now have 5 tugs and are building a 6th. They also have a contract with Alaska Marine Lines to provide regular barge service between Seattle and Southeast communities.
We leave Seattle Thursday night, and we arrive Ketchikan area Monday afternoon, and we bring 2 barges out of Seattle, and we drop one to one of our other boats that is based in Ketchikan now, and he takes that barge to Ketchikan. He's there Monday night, and then he goes on to Wrangell, which he makes, Ketchikan Sunday night. He makes Wrangell wee hours Monday morning, and then he makes Petersburg about daylight Monday, and then he goes on to Sitka, and he's there maybe by midnight Monday night or a.m. Tuesday. And meanwhile, we've gone on to Juneau, which we usually arrive Monday afternoons, and then we go on to Haines Monday night and early a.m. Tuesday arrival in Haines, and then back to Juneau and load our empties and southbound freight on Tuesday afternoon, and then head back to Ketchikan and pick up our other barge, and we arrive back in Seattle Saturday nights, and generally a 9.5-day round trip. Everything you use up here, I mean, virtually we're carrying everything but whatever flies in and the small amount the ferry might bring, and as far as the mail and that goes. So everything from groceries to building supplies to liquor to new automobiles is a big thing this time of year. All the new cars are out. We haul 40 to 60 cars a trip into Juneau, and we haul a bunch of crushed ones out every trip. The barge that we have here is 286 feet long, and it's 76 feet wide, and it's capable of carrying about 8,000 tons of cargo. And if you put that as far as container size and what have you, we put on about 400 containers. They are chained down, but also it's just the barges just don't roll that bad. It would take so much to throw them off, and southeast we don't do a whole lot of lashing, just a minimum on the top loads and that. But they're more stable than you would think. Even out rolling around, they just don't roll that fast. They always ride better than the tug does. Anytime you get to a big load and you got wind maybe in the 70 range on up, you know, it can develop into where the sea condition gets so rough you have to slow down some, and the combination of the wind and the sea, you can't make headway. And you can sometimes go backwards and sideways, and you just hope it doesn't last very long. You got enough sea room to ride it out.
All of the work on the tug and much of the loading and unloading is done by a surprisingly few number of people.
We got 4 of us on here. We have a mate, a captain, and a cook deckhand, and a deckhand engineer kind of combination. And the cook, he works on deck when we're handling the barges, and the rest of the time he just takes care of the cooking and the maintenance of the galley area. And the deckhand, he takes care of just the general maintenance outside on the deck machinery and what have you, and he stands a watch with a mate, and the cook stands a watch with myself, and we stand 6 on and 6 off watches, so we're up 12 hours a day, and we sleep 12 hours a day. Or we have that option to sleep 12 hours a day if it works out like that.
Mike Connors has been with Western Towboats for a year and works as a cook in addition to helping load and unload the barges.
But when you're running, you generally get, it's really not too much to do other than work around the boat a little bit. So mealtime's just about the highlight of the day, kind of. So we try to keep everybody full and happy anyway.
Unlike the rest of the U.S., crew members on most tugs operating in Alaska do much of the loading and unloading of the containers and cargo. In part, that's done to save money, and in part it's done because there simply aren't longshoremen in many smaller towns. That means the entire crew, including the captain, were working at 1 o'clock in the morning in Haines, and the work can be dangerous.
Working on deck, if a line were to break, they have such terrible strains on them, the backlash could cut your head off, and just even bumped by that towing gear back there, if it gets loose, or when the crew's working back there, there's so much weight involved that people get killed on deck. People apply for work every day of the week, by phone and in person. We got a file on the desk there, and index cards and probably 300 names right now, just prospects.
Do you have much turnover?
No, very little turnover here. Most people don't. In the old days, people used to move around a lot more, but now the jobs just aren't that easy to come by, and people tend to stay.
This captain is one who has stayed after growing up in a tug and barge family. As a result, the trip through Southeast is one Bob Shrewsbury has made a few times before.
There's always something natural out there that you don't see every trip. But, there's always things to look forward to. But as far as knowing your routine, that gets, you get pretty bored with that. I mean, you know exactly what you're going to do. I mean, we know from hour to hour roughly where we should be 2 weeks from now. I should be right here again. My mother used to ride with my dad, and she had me going along when I was 2 weeks after I was born. But so I've just pretty much grown up on boats and around the boats. Something I always did, it was just part of our lives, and never really anything else I thought about doing, I guess. I'm away for 4 days, I start to miss it,
Tugs and barges and all other boats using Southeast waters take advantage of navigational aids. Those aids come in different sizes and shapes, but none have quite captured the imagination the way picturesque lighthouses have, pointing skyward and shining their lights on passing boats. A dozen lighthouses were constructed in Southeast Alaska over the years. They range from Eldred Rock near Haines in the north to Tree Point near Ketchikan in the south. The history of lighthouses in Alaska dates from 1869, just 2 years after the purchase, when the U.S. Senate considered selected public lands along the coast of Oregon, Washington, and Alaska to be used for lighthouses. Although Congress took no action to select lighthouse lands in Alaska, they did choose to use whatever navigational aids the Russians had left behind. At that time, the only lighted aid was in the Russian governor's house in Sitka. It was somewhat crude, consisting of seal or whale oil and wicks in 4 copper cans that were placed in front of a large reflector in a turret lantern. That light was maintained by the Army at the request and expense of the Lighthouse Board through 1877, when the Army departed Alaska. For nearly 20 years, the light in Sitka was dark. Then, in 1895, a simple post light was placed on Castle Hill. Not until the Klondike Gold Rush in the late 1890s did Congress seriously consider the need for lighted navigational aids in Alaska. In 1900, they appropriated funds to construct lighthouses at Sentinel Island, located just north of Juneau, and for one in Frederick Sound, north of Petersburg. Both stations were first lighted on March 1st, 1902. Five Finger Light, the one built in Frederick Sound, has the added distinction of being the first and last manned light station in Alaska. As recently as 1984, the Coast Guard still maintained a crew at Five Finger, but times were changing. Modern equipment meant the lonely, manned operations of lighthouses were no longer necessary. Today, although the people are gone, the memories of more than 80 years of manned lighthouses in Southeast still remain. Those who were among the last to keep the lighthouses shining talked about their thoughts and their work before they too left and closed the door for the last time.
I usually do all the cooking. The non-rates do the cleaning up. First thing I'm going to do is, like I said before, I'll go to a restaurant. Have somebody wait on me.
Bosun's mate first class Joseph Seabury only had to wait 4 months before getting his restaurant meal. No time at all, as time was counted at Five Finger Islands, one of the most remote light stations operated by the U.S. Coast Guard. Usually a tour of duty at Station Five Finger would isolate a man from restaurants, movie theaters, women, and a great deal more for 12 long months. But a decision by the U.S. Coast Guard to automate the light station ended Seabury's tour of duty at Five Finger months early. Unlike some of the others who came and went before him, Seabury wasn't all that anxious to leave. He'd been counting on a few more months of fishing.
I caught a 125-pound halibut my first week, and Rocky Gear, he's the FN here, he caught a 210-pound halibut, and I've told him that if I catch one bigger than his, he's not leaving until he can beat me. So I've been fishing quite a bit trying to catch something bigger than 210 pounds.
Took us about 25 minutes to get him in and into the boat. It was an experience, a lot of fun.
Rocky Gear was the long-timer of the group when we visited the station shortly before the switch was flipped, putting machines rather than men in charge. Recalling that blustery afternoon when he arrived at the 3-acre site nearly a year before, Gear remembers thinking,
"This place is small, real small. When we landed out here, I couldn't even see the island. I didn't even know where we were landing."
It would not be difficult to miss the island. Jutting from the sea at the northerly end of Frederick Sound, the rock measures a scant 3 acres. The first manned lighthouse in Alaska, its beacon of light has been warning mariners of dangerous rocks and reefs since 1902. Tending the light was a lonely duty then. Through the years, that didn't change much.
I arrived here on January 31st, and my first impression of this place was, help me. You know, it's kind of, you look around, you see nothing but mountains. There's nothing, water and mountains, there's nothing else around. For the first 3 months, it was really, we had bad weather during the wintertime, so we couldn't get out, nothing, and no fishermen come by. We didn't even see boats come by. It's like, does the world exist?
Assurance that civilization was continuing beyond the horizon came on Tuesday, a week after Jim Johnson arrived at the light station. Weather permitting, Tuesdays were mail days. From Sitka Coast Guard Station, some 100 air miles away, a crew would helicopter in, bringing letters and foodstuffs. But often the weather would turn nasty, and for weeks on end, there would be no visits.
Especially in the wintertime, we couldn't go outside at all, and it was pretty hectic around here because we didn't have a dish. And when that came in, it made things a lot nicer, especially last winter, because you couldn't go outside. It was too cold.
About the same time, the satellite receiver, or dish, was installed last winter. A fifth member was assigned to the lighthouse. She made life a little better for everyone.
She's been a good dog. When the two non-rates are on watch, we're the only ones up, and having somebody in there you can talk to, more or less, keep your mind occupied, play with her. She's helped out a lot.
As did the weightlifting competitions, the island playoffs, and the knowledge there were others just as lonely.
Well, everybody out here is in the same situation. We're all out here. As far as it's been so far, we've had no problems. I've had no problems with liking the people. Then again, it's only 3 other people that you have to like. And you do learn that from being transferred from one unit to another unit in the Coast Guard. Meeting new people, getting along with people. We all basically share about the same interests. Everybody's within the same age group. We're all in our 20s. So it's, I'm the only one that smokes, but that made it hard.
Difficult, but not altogether unpleasant. There were the good times.
I ain't gonna regret being here. It's an experience I'm glad I had in a way. Be glad to get off, you know. I guess anybody would.
Thanks for joining us as we add another chapter to our life in rain country. We'll be back again in another week as we continue getting around in Southeast. I'm Scott Foster. Have a good day.